So 20 years of your blood, sweat, and tears just erased.
Before we get started with all the topics, maybe you can give a short overview of who you are and why you're excited about Bitcoin.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the pod. I've been watching your pod for a while now, and it's an honor to be here. So yeah, I'm Dr. Satoshi. I actually work as a doctor. I've been working as a doctor in the hospital for about 15 years. I'm an internal medicine physician, and I take care of patients when they're in the hospital. So I'm a hospitalist, and I take care of conditions like heart attacks, strokes, diabetic emergencies. And I've always loved doing what I do. I've always wanted to be a doctor. I've always wanted to help people. And so throughout my career, I never really questioned it, and I was always on this path that I always saw for myself, and I was happy and making good money. But when I really got into Bitcoin about 5 years ago, it really just changed my lens on how I saw everything in the world, including how I saw medicine. And once I had this shift in my lens and the way I saw things, I started to look at my job differently, and I started to see that in the same way we Bitcoiners see how the fiat incentives really corrupt the money system, I saw the exact same thing in medicine. I saw how the fiat incentives are basically just causing so much corruption in medicine, and it was very disillusioning for me to see that and accept that, because prior to seeing that, I just accepted everything, and I assumed that medicine was there to heal people and to help people. But once I saw the fiat incentives, I saw that it was really more about profit and about control, and just how politicized it was, and how it's really top-down control and very centralized, which is exactly what we see in the financial system. And that's exactly what a lot of Bitcoiners see in the financial system, and that exposes the corruption, is just seeing how centralized it is. And that's the exact same case with medicine. It's so centralized, and it's all about profit and not about the individual and not about healing. And so ever since I've had this change in my lens, it changed the way I approach my job. So prior to having this realization, I was just putting all of my energy into my job and into the fiat system, thinking that that was a good place to put my life force, because I was thinking that I was really helping people. But once I had this awakening, I cut back my shifts. I'm basically working half time, and just realized it's so much better to put my energy into this Bitcoin system and help this Bitcoin system grow. So it's essentially like I'm unplugging from the fiat illusion and from the fiat matrix slowly. And I think that's how it's going to be for a lot of people, is that we're not just going to be able to immediately leave fiat and go into the Bitcoin world. Although some people have been able to do that, and it's very inspiring to see that. But I think for a majority of people, it's going to be this transition. And so I think that's what my journey has been, and that's what I want to inspire other people. I want to inspire other people with my journey, to show that once you have this Bitcoin awakening, I want to show people how you can navigate the traps of the fiat system and start waking people up to this fiat illusion. Because it's not until you wake up and see this fiat illusion that you start to take your power back and start to navigate it and live a more healthy life.
Yeah, and it's a heavy step that you took there, because it's like people can look at it and like, oh yeah, he just cut his time back and focus a little bit more on this Bitcoin thing. But as you have done it probably since a little bit of a while, and then you cut it back, this really changes how your life is approaching. And even like no matter how old or how long you have done that, this really changes your life. And it probably was a harder decision than you described it as you did. How long was this kind of time frame where you thought about doing this, or like was it like, hey, let's do it, I want to contribute to Bitcoin. I can just talk for me. Like it was a pretty like I needed a long time to actually take that step.
Yeah. So it was 2020 when I really started studying Bitcoin more heavily. And then ever since then, I've just been studying more and more. And this is a common thing with a lot of Bitcoiners is it really shifts your brain and your mindset. And you realize that it's not good to just consume all the time. It shifts you from being a consumer to a creator. So the fiat world is all about just consuming, mindlessly, just consuming content over and over, just scrolling and on the screen. But when you have this Bitcoin shift in mindset, you realize that the importance of being a creator. And so after years of just consuming Bitcoin content, I just basically felt compelled internally in my soul to start creating. And this whole world, this YouTube social media world, is something that I always stayed away from. I always realized how detrimental social media was to your soul, essentially. And so I always stayed away from it. But with this Bitcoin awakening, I realized that it was if I come at it from a different mindset in terms of just wanting to be a creator and just spread this message, then it's kind of different than being on social media and being exposed to all the negative aspects of it. I could just kind of hone in on the positive aspects and really just get this message out there. So it essentially was just being overtaken by this Bitcoin ethos and just needing to basically get this message out there.
Yeah, social media, it gets a lot of shit. But for me, social media, YouTube, podcasting, whatever, like the whole online content space, I would say, it's a little bit like a knife. It's a little bit like fire. You can use it for good and bad.
Yeah.
Some people just use it to go deeper and deeper into the depressions, watch worse and worse stuff, and like they're just mindlessly scrolling. Other people use it to completely educate themselves. Like everything that I do right now is because of YouTube and podcasting, like everything.
Yeah.
I like only maybe like 5 to 10% that I've learned in school, or I mean, there's of course like the real world, the mentors and people in my life that are also influencing me. That's a big step. Also, that's a big contributor. But most of it is just like YouTube and podcasting. You would be astonished how much I learned from YouTube and podcasting. ChatGPT wasn't around when I started. It's around now and it helps me a lot. But now I've learned everything from weird YouTubers that said like, oh, you need to do this and this and this, and I was like, oh shit, he's full of crap. Oh, he's kind of helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, really interesting. I like the concept of proof of work, like this consuming versus creating. And that, like, we all create a little bit, we all consume a little bit. But I think if we create more than we consume, that's always a good thing. Maybe that's an interesting one. How would you, because I think like even in the Bitcoin standard, we need some kind of hospital, some kind of like healthcare system. People will still get sick in some regard. How would you differently have a Bitcoin healthcare system? Like how would the healthcare system work differently on a Bitcoin standard versus right now on a fiat standard?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And that's partly why I think it's important for Bitcoiners to have one foot in the fiat world still, because there's this idea that Bitcoiners can build parallel systems, and if we build parallel systems, we can basically create a world that makes the old world irrelevant. And as we're doing that, as we're building these parallel systems, we're going to need to have a bridge from the fiat world into these parallel systems that we create. And so it's going to be important for Bitcoiners to serve as intermediaries and to guide people from this fiat world into the Bitcoin world that we all imagine and can and can definitely see in the future. But it's tough to say how long it's going to take for us to really move into that hyper Bitcoinized world. So at least during this transition period, we're going to have to accept that we do have this fiat world. And as we're transitioning, what we can do as Bitcoiners is we can infuse that Bitcoin ethos into the fiat world. And so that's what I try to do at my job now. I'm in the fiat world, and I've got protocols I have to follow, and rules that frustrate me. But at the same time, I can bring that Bitcoin ethos into my job, and talk to my patients, and instill in them this sense of sovereignty and taking control of their health, and proof of work, and um, basically help them incorporate these Bitcoin principles into their life. And I found that the more that you incorporate Bitcoin principles into your life, the better your life becomes. So it's 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 actually this reframe that I did in my mind. Instead of just being disillusioned with the system and wanting to leave immediately, I kind of shifted my mindset to thinking, how can I bring the Bitcoin ethos into my fiat job? And I think that's a really important reframe that a lot of people can do, because I know a lot of people are struggling with having this awakening, and seeing how broken things are, and being really disillusioned, and kind of frustrated and angry. But I think it's important to have a level of acceptance. Just accept that we are where we are now. We're still so early in this Bitcoin process, and this hyper Bitcoinization process, and things are going to take time to unfold. But if we're really envisioning how things are going to look far off into the future in this Bitcoin world, it's really all about just the individual taking back control of their health, and the individual being more empowered. Right now, we outsource pretty much everything to these centralized systems that don't have our best interest in mind. And that was an important awakening that I had, seeing it in the financial system, when I realized that I was outsourcing basically all of my power to banks and to the stock market, things that are outside of my control. And that's exactly what we're doing right now in medicine and healthcare. We're outsourcing our health to the pharmaceutical industry, to the hospital, when really we should be taking control of our own health, and figuring out what makes us healthy, as opposed to relying on these centralized systems and centralized protocols. And when you realize that these centralized systems and protocols aren't actually designed to heal you, they're designed to keep you dependent, it really gives you a sense of urgency that this is something that you need to take control of, and you need to be aware of. Because in the same way that in the financial system, if you don't learn about inflation and money printing, you're going to have your energy stolen from you, and your life force is going to be drained. It's the same exact thing in health and medicine. If you don't start learning, and you don't start taking control, and making doing proof of work, and taking taking charge of your habits, then you're going to be at the whim of this system, and the system is draining you of your energy. And so your money and your health kind of are two sides of the same coin. They're both they're both all about your energy, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that our energy is not being drained from us.
Yeah, it's a good point of like health, and with health comes time, and this is the
Yeah,
only asset that we have that's more valuable than Bitcoin. Health is
yeah,
pretty important. Uh, it doesn't, if you have 30 Bitcoin and you die tomorrow, like what's it all for? It's like
yeah,
if you have all the Bitcoin in the world, but you hustled so hard for it that you're stressed out, and you're like all of your body is not working nicely, and you kind of completely ruined your body because you hustled so hard, because you worked like 50 jobs a week to get like that extra zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. I don't know, like that. That seems to be a bad trade to do. I mean, of course, like I have a lot of empathy for hard living realities where you have to work really hard, and I worked two some of the three jobs at the same time, and sometimes it's just like this life phases where you have to do those things. But in general, I would say it's not worth it, because you are trading the most valuable asset that you have, your time and your health, which is kind of the same
mhm,
thing, for more Bitcoin. And usually getting more Bitcoin is always best. except in that one case with health and time.
Yeah. With the finances and with the realization that we get with Bitcoin, we realize how important time is. Like you said, there's that meme that's going around now that kind of really highlights this point, that imagine you work 50 years of your life and then the Fed prints 40% of the money supply in a few years and essentially steals 20 years of your time. So 20 years of your blood, sweat, and tears just erased just because the Fed inflated the money supply. So that really highlights just how important it is to value your time and take back your time. And in that example, if the person had just moved their money out of the fiat system into the Bitcoin system, they would have been protected from that. So they would have basically protected 20 years of their life. And if you apply that to health, if you are eating fiat foods and just reliant on fiat medicine, it's essentially guaranteed that your lifespan will be shorter than someone who takes charge of their health and eats healthy and is aware of these fiat foods and fiat traps and navigates away from them. So in the same way that with Bitcoin, you can take back some of your energy and time, it's the exact same principle with health, that if you're aware of these traps and you're aware of these fiat incentives and how these fiat incentives lead to these fiat traps, then you can avoid them and you can add years to your life. And essentially, if you're adding years to your life, that's the most invaluable asset, like you said. So Bitcoiners, it's imperative that they start taking their health more seriously and start applying that same Bitcoin lens to their health.
We often throw around this term fiat food, and we had a whole podcast on that with Matthew Lysiak. I hope I don't butcher his name, on what fiat food is. And I recently, maybe I can show this to you if I find it quickly. I recently actually asked, because it's still a big debate in Bitcoin, what they're eating. You're probably well aware, like more animal based or more kind of it was right here. It got over 1,000 votes, so it's not that, it's kind of popular. And I will just quickly show this to you, and I'm curious because I want to talk a little bit about food, and I want to talk about like fiat food and what this actually is. And I asked my audience, are you eating mostly plant-based or animal based? Just like have like that two separations, not about like processed foods and sugar and all those things. I don't see any results. Do I have to vote to see the results? Let's see. Okay, now we see results. To click something. So basically, only plant-based is like very low, and only animal-based is very low also, obviously. So most people just eat both things. And there's like a kind of big group that eats like raw vegan. I thought it's actually smaller than that because the Bitcoin community is so big on carnivore. And I think I made that post also once with carnivore and vegan. But still, like a majority of people eat animal-based diet. How would you describe like what fiat food is, and why this wouldn't be the case with Bitcoin?
Fiat food is basically food that was created based on fiat incentives. So it's food that's ultra processed, has long shelf life, and it's food designed to just maximize profit for corporations, and not food designed to nourish you, not food that's good for you. So corporations, they operate based on maximizing profit. They're beholden to shareholders, and they're not evil. They're not trying to serve you unhealthy food, but based on the incentives, they have to do these things to maximize profit. Otherwise, they won't survive as corporations.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.